So, you want a demon as a pet by SpookBrain. First off, kind reader, let me introduce myself. My given name is Xavier Periwinkle, but most folks call me Gary. I'd rather not say why. Since birth, I've had a natural proclivity towards the occult. I was drawn to it as it was drawn to me. My talents have made me an outcast, but I'm a flame to a moth for misfits. Misfits who would see the world like I do. And I know that you, dear listener, must be one of the true believers. For that, I thank you. I readily recognize that my rambling introduction is just partly an appetizer compared to the main course. So, with that in mind, let's get to the subject matter at hand. Demons are foul entities indeed, although they do have their uses. Dragged from the pits of hell into the mortal realm, they feed on our darkest impulses and sow seeds of chaos among humanity. You can see their handiwork on the nightly news, from the anchor desk to the streets. Very few people are aware that you can keep demons as pets, and probably for good reason. Demon pet ownership is a grueling task that will leave you wondering why you entered into such a foolish endeavor. But for those who can endure, it can be a fruitful partnership, leading to tremendous financial and personal gain. To illustrate the finer points of owning a demon as a pet, I'd like to tell you the story of Evan and Evelyn Halstead, a 30-something couple that resided in Chicago, Illinois during the late 2000s. On a snowy December night, the Halsteads invited a destitute vagrant into their home for dinner and access to a hot shower. Moved by their kindness and desperate to get out of the cold, the man quickly accepted their offer. Fully preoccupied with the hearty meal in front of him, the man didn't even notice Evan sneaking up behind him, fire poker in hand. Before you can own a demon, you must summon it. This is what you might call step 1. To summon the demon, you must offer a worthy sacrifice, which in this case means ending a human life. Only such a vile, despicable act can bring a demon into the mortal realm. After bludgeoning his guest, Evan dipped his finger into the still-forming pool of blood and drew a series of symbols, which you can purchase on my website, into the hardwood floor of his loft apartment. Hands clasped together, the couple recited the 4th recitation of Lucifer's Daughter, which is also purchasable on the website. They did this in front of a silver mirror. Emerging in wisp of hellfire, the demon emerged from the mirror, coated in a black soot. Bound by the ritual, the demon begrudgingly bowed to its new masters. Outside, a heavy rain began to fall, followed by bouts of booming thunder. To keep a demon passive, weekly blood offerings are required. Demons are volatile and powerful, so spells or rituals usually only affect them for short periods. The Halsteads were able to satiate the demon with raw meat for several weeks, but soon it became restless and increasingly agitated. Something more potent was required. Through her job as a medical technologist at a blood bank, Evelyn was able to smuggle pouches of human blood home to her pet. It greedily slurped the blood down like a child with a Capri Sun, ripping open the bag to lick every last drop. Smiling in satisfaction, it looked upon the couple with delight. As the couple learned to properly quench the demon's thirst, good fortune began to smile upon them. Promotions, raises, new and powerful friends. The world was seemingly at their fingertips. One of the essential things to know about demon pet ownership is that you must, under all circumstances, leave a circle of purified salt around the silver summoning mirror once night falls. If you do not, the demon can freely roam within a 3-mile radius, albeit with some limitations. Unfortunately for Evan, he pirated an incomplete version of my training manual, which did not include this critical information. You can take whatever lesson you want from this. Unbeknownst to the couple, the demons stalked their neighborhood as they slept, preying on small animals and vandalizing property. Blinded by their greed and caught up in their go-go lifestyle, the couple unwittingly hurled towards disaster. Evelyn cried out in frustration, her demon laughing at the pouch of blood it had thrown against the wall, ruining a new and rather expensive portrait. By this time, it had grown much larger, so large that its scales brushed up against the ceiling. It was no longer satisfied by pouches of blood, and once again, something more potent was required. Pets in the neighborhood began disappearing at an alarming rate. Notices were posted, calls were made to the city officials, but the disappearances continued. The Halsteads joined with their neighbors in anger, pleading for resolution. They'd come into their homes and brainstorm ideas, secretly leaving a corrupted idol somewhere hidden as a doorway for their pet. A demonic doggy door. Still caught up in their new and exciting lifestyle, they didn't even notice that pets were disappearing from domiciles that they never visited. Demons are a force of nature, no different than an earthquake or a hurricane. Their reason for being is destruction, and nothing can divert them from this path. If one is to bring a demon into this world, it is of the utmost importance to keep this in mind at all times. Never let your guard down. Be ever vigilant, because eventually your pet will try to escape its cage. Even the Halsteads took notice when two young brothers on their block were kidnapped and murdered, their bodies brutalized almost beyond recognition. Then, not even a week later, an elderly woman living less than a mile from the boys was found dead in her home. The reporters described the crime as ritualistic. Confronted with these horrific events, the Halsteads had the sinking realization that their pet had escaped its confines. They didn't know how it escaped, although they could have, but they were sure that they had unleashed this hell upon the community. Minds warped by greed, they tried to rationalize the events. I think they used the words, "The universe is balancing itself out." But after several more vicious crimes, including an old acquaintance, even the Halsteads faltered in front of the utter brutality their demon unleashed upon its victims. Together, huddled in their car, they devised a plan to banish the demon back to hell. Little did they know, their pet had heard every last word. And as you can imagine, demons don't take kindly to betrayal. Within a week, the Halsteads were brought to the police station for questioning. An anonymous tipster had given some crucial evidence to investigators, and on a second sweep of selected items from the crime scene, DNA evidence was uncovered that linked the couple to all of the crimes. Despite their pleas of innocence, the couple were found guilty on all counts and were given the death penalty. Evelyn's lawyer attempted an insanity defense, claiming her client raved about demons and spells, but it didn't hold up well in court. They were painted as cruel, sadistic killers who lusted for power and control, these crimes being a vessel for that desire. In many ways, these descriptions were extremely accurate, and deep down, even the Halsteads knew that. Nearly a year apart, after serving 5 and 6 years in prison respectively, both Evan and Evelyn were found dead in their solitary cells. Reading the coroner's report, both had suffered simultaneously from a massive, and most likely excruciatingly painful, stroke and cardiac arrest. In both cases, the coroners noted that the deceased had a look of agony etched into their face. Their mouths were open in a silent scream. Oddest of all, a series of burns were found on their back, as if cigarettes had been extinguished on them. I believe the lesson is clear. Never bring a demon into this world without fully and properly consulting an expert. Demon pet ownership is not for amateurs, or at least not those without appropriate guidance and support. The consequences can be drastic, and that may include losing your immortal soul and becoming an eternal slave to the creature you once considered a pet. Although the names were changed, the events I relayed are 100% true. You may ask how I know all of this. How could I be so intimately acquainted with the details of this case? Granted, this is a valid question, since their demon was roaming freely in the streets. Due to the Housedead's negligence, it was free to strike a deal with a more experienced host. Once that deal was struck, their fate was all but sealed. If you're interested in the world of demon pet ownership, please feel free to comment below. All inquiries will be responded to in a prompt and timely manner.